A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on ITV. This is Politics Today, coming to you live on independent television and also on independent radio, the Heartbeat 92.3 FM. I am Uyag Mofwegbe, in for Sunny Duke Okoso. This weekend, our conversation about security or the lack of it in this country continues, especially with the circumstances surrounding the kidnap of over 340 boys. In fact, we're now hearing 344 boys, even though we're seeing conflicting records as to the exact number of boys that were kidnapped from Government Science Secondary School somewhere in Katsina State. We're going to give you so much of perspective along that line. But first, let's give you an overview of what security concerns, or if you like, insecurity, have been in Nigeria, particularly in recent years. At a point, every time you talked about insecurity, it was somewhere within Maiduguri or overall Borno State. Later spread to two more states within the northeastern part of the country, Adamawa and Yobe. But today, it has become a burgeoning problem to the point that even the northwestern part of the country is not left out in all of these problems. Several solutions have been proffered, but it will appear the more solutions are provided, or at least proposed, the more complicated and deep-rooted the problems become. However, the kidnap of these boys in Katsina State has again amplified the cause for the sacking of the service chiefs. And then in the middle of that, you're wondering, will sacking the service chiefs answer all of the questions that we have about insecurity in Nigeria? Will it be a sweeping move to say, let's sack the security chiefs so we can all go to bed with two eyes closed? What more can we do, should we do, to ensure that we're able to run circles around the nagging problem of insecurity? I mean, take a look at the southwestern part of the country, for example. When I have the Moteco core, some persons are saying, look, it couldn't have come at a better time. As a matter of fact, they are not even recommending that other regions of the country should adopt a similar model, from the south-south to the southeast, to other parts of the country. Just yesterday, for example, somebody was asking the coordinator of defense information, General John Eneche, as to whether or not the military is overwhelmed in Nigeria. And he said, look, the issue of whether or not the military is overwhelmed is not something he wants to answer categorically. However, he said, the military is ready to take on any assignment that it has to face. So we want to help make sense of all of this conversation today. I'm joined by two brilliant gentlemen who have passionately followed the issues of insecurity in Nigeria. I will begin from my immediate left, Barrister Abayomi Thomas, who's a constitutional lawyer. Thank you, Chief, for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me here.
And next to him is a distinguished professor, as a matter of fact, a man who has a robust background in military history, Professor Benson Osadolo of Department of International Studies and Diplomacy at the prestigious University of Benin. Thank you so much for coming, Prof. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
I'm going to begin with you for obvious reasons.
Okay.
Before I get to drag Chief A.B. Thomas into the conversation. I remember in third year, I mean, I was in your class in third year, you talked about, in particular, budgeting for defense across countries in this world. When it came to Nigeria, the story was pathetic. Some persons have said if we funded the military more, we'll be better placed as far as insecurity is concerned in Nigeria. How much of truth is there in that kind of assertion?
Well, for nations of the world who are also concerned about national security, the issue of defense budgets, it's very critical to ensuring stability and security of their nations. In a democracy, for example, you could see how defense budgets are used, particularly for research and development, for weapon systems, for training and retraining of personnel. But in third world countries, take Nigeria for example, we've had an increase in military budgets over the years, apparently because of the fight against terrorism and the counter-insurgency projects of the government. But none of them could justify the huge expenses on military budgeting or defense budgeting in the past years. They have taken the issue of terrorism They've taken the issue of counterinsurgency as investments, where they could put pressure on governments to make available certain amount of resources, money, to procure weapons, to train soldiers, to get defense system effectively working to ensure the security of the country. But in the case of Nigeria, it has not been so. So how are we been fighting insecurity in this country? Is it the same budget that has been going up? Is it the same budget that people just don't understand how the money is spent? What weapons have we seen? In fact, what you find a little bit disturbing about defense budget in Nigeria is that the various arms of government, the various arms of the security agencies, the army, so no, they must establish their university. So they establish a university. They have one in Borno. The Air Force said no, they must establish their university. They have another one. The Navy says no, they must establish a university. They have one. The police must establish their university. They have one. Now, when you compare the cost of running a university and you run that with your defense budget, there's something is absolutely wrong, because the NUC is not part of the funding project for these military universities that we have established in the country. We have the NDA in Kaduna, but that is not sufficient for government. Rather, they just want to spend money for no reason, other than look at issues of national security. Budgeting has its own political economy. In other words, we're in a society. What is, let me put it this way. When you think of defense budget, there are three things involved. Number one, there must be a security vision. Number two, there must be a security policy. In other words, the guidelines that you want to follow to take action for securing your state from the invasion of others and internal or domestic insecurity. Third one is domestic posture. In other words, what is your attitude? What is your approach to dealing with security problems? These three issues, security vision, security policy, security posture, they determine how resources are allocated in the defense industry. But in Nigeria, it's completely different. On paper, that is in theory, they may attempt to say, look, this is what we want to do, but in practice, completely different.
We're going to talk about those differences as we make progress into the conversation, gentlemen. But I want to come to Chief Ibi Thomas now. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the 344 boys that were kidnapped in Katsina State. At one point, the governor of that state, Aminu Bello Masari, had said there were 333. Of course, he recanted a day or two later and said there were now 344 that were released. In the middle of all that, the senior special assistant on media and publicity to the president, Malam Garba Shehu, had tweeted to say, look, there were only 10 boys, even though, of course, he had since come out to apologize and then say that those who informed him of that figure should have known better. Isn't that indicative of how much we don't attach priority to communication, especially where it has to do with security or insecurity?
Thank you. The issue is not communication. The issue has to be, the issue is running government based on propaganda. This government, like the previous ones we have had in Nigeria, believes in telling lies to Nigerian citizens because of the helpless situation we have found ourselves. How do you explain these discrepancies in figure of students in a government science secondary school, in Katsina State, where there is a principal, there is a commissioner for education, then the presidency is announcing 10 students, then the governor of Katsina State Masari is announcing a different figure. What we see when it comes to security in Nigeria is that there is abundant lack of transparency.
That's right.
Lack of transparency. When Jonathan was there as president, suddenly we found a plane loaded with dollars in South Africa, purportedly going to buy arms in South Africa. Do you carry cash to go and purchase arms? Where is the transparency? And this was immediately after the Chibok girls were also kidnapped. There was the question whether, were Chibok girls actually kidnapped or not? But bring back our guests brought the kidnapping focus of the entire world, and we not described yet really they were actually kidnapped. Then this government came with their own theory. Oh, Jonathan was not a military man. He never knew the tactics in security. He has no speciality in security. Okay, you have been a former military state, a retired general. We expected that with the budget of the country joining every year into security, as a retired general, you will monitor what you are using the money to do. Instead, the reverse is the case. You cannot expect a government that is run on propaganda to achieve much in terms of security, not because there is lack of communication, but because you have changed the security architecture of Nigeria from meritocracy to nepotism. What I mean is this: when you decide that the best people that you can put in all the agencies for security must come from your own area of origin, that is nepotism. You are not focusing on getting the best hands to handle security in the country. How do you explain a situation where almost all the service chiefs are from one part of the north, not from the north, but from one part of the north? How do you explain that? Are you saying there's no Igbo man who is good enough to take such a job? Are you saying there's no South ETG in the armed forces who can take such jobs? Then upon all that, we have seen the woeful performances of these security chiefs. The cry from all corners of Nigeria has been, change these people. But you will do nothing. So, what do you now find? Your aides are giving Nigerians whatever they feel like giving to Nigerians. They give us the information they feel like giving to Nigerians. Because we are helpless. We are in a situation of complete helplessness. In fact, I told somebody recently, I said, look, it appears God has forgotten Nigeria. Because if God has not forgotten Nigeria, for all this nepotistic attitude towards the security of lives of Nigerian citizens, there ought to be consequences. But because God has forgotten us and the people who are ruling us don't care, please let me divert a bit. When I was growing up in Benin here, the first time we saw corpses on the roads were during the Biafra Civil War.
That's right.
In the 60s.
Yes. That was the first time. And when you see a corpse as a child, you run. You run. Soldiers were not seen in the streets. They were put far, far away from the cities. But now what do we find? Children see corpses. As I was coming here, I saw a corpse on the road. Children surrounded the corpse. Not far from me.
Some probably were even taking pictures.
Yes, I was taking pictures. Laughing. That only shows you the level of degradation of security and the morality that follows it. There's no security, The children now see corpses and take video. In those days, the moment a man dies in the street, you will see people from Oredo or somewhere. Quickly, they will move the corpse immediately. But now, they are on the road. The sun will drive the person there. And you say you have a government. There is no amount of propaganda you can't give to people. People like you, like my brother here, the professor. No matter the amount of propaganda you give to him or to you, we just laugh. We laugh because we know the truth, but we are helpless. In my language, we say, "Oroburuku peleri." You are laughing over a very bad situation. What can we do? We cried, they didn't hear. We laugh, they laugh at us. If Ayesha, the wife of the president, can move to Dubai and say there is no security in Asoro, what do you expect? The president traveled to his own state casino. While he was there, students were kidnapped. He did not go to visit the school. He went to visit his house. Now, what kind of propaganda or communication that will repair such damage?
His information handlers are saying, look, there's no rule that says he must visit the school. He could coordinate security apparatus from wherever he is.
Were we not once told that the same president could rule from anywhere in the world? When we couldn't see our president. And they said we had no right to ask where is our president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Being commander-in-chief of the armed forces means that he is number one citizen who is responsible for security of the country. And we do not see him for almost 8 weeks, and they told us we cannot ask. Is there any country, when Donald Trump had coronavirus, there were daily reports, even if they were falsified, there were daily reports. We didn't see our president, they said we cannot ask. They can run from anywhere in the world. So it is not a case of miscommunication that they will announce 10 students as being kidnapped in Abuja. Then the governor of Katsina State announced his own figure, and at the return, we saw 344. And how are you even sure? Because I watched the governor when he was being interviewed on CNN. He was told the number of students, the CNN female reporter said the students are 600. The man initially was dazed.
Some persons have also faulted the report of that, our demon on CNN, because she was in Istanbul, Turkey at that point when she was reporting. Some persons have said, you are not anywhere close to the soil of Africa. How were you able to put a finger on the exact thing?
You journalists have a way of digging deep into what is called investigative journalism.
Of course.
So nobody can fool you. You can even go to what's the name of the town? Kafan. You can go Kankara. You can go there and see the principal. The principal will tell you how many students he has in the boarding house.
Chief Femi Thomas, I'm going to ask you a few more questions in a bit, especially along the lines of credibility of information and how government should be run, particularly as it touches on security issues. Prof, last year you had an inaugural lecture where you talked about nations and national security. At that point when you were preparing your materials, did you ever see this dimension of insecurity? Did you foresee it?
I saw it. I saw it coming. And if you have a copy of that inaugural lecture, which I delivered on the 13th of June, 2019, the title of the lecture is Nations and National Security, the historical context of security sector reforms in West Africa. You see, my concern is that today, let us not look at individuals and say, because of their behavior, their attitude, their understanding or misunderstanding of security issues, therefore they should be removed and do something else. We are advocated for security sector reform on one condition. Let us make security reform institutional. A reason for that. if you look at, take Nigeria as a case study, there are different dimensions of insecurity, from banditry to insurgency to kidnapping to terrorism to other criminal activities. Now, the security agencies, rather than deal with these problems, they are either at rivalry or conflict with one another. The police against DSS, DSS against the army against the police. So we find this kind of scenario in Nigeria and in some other West African countries, where you begin to ask questions whether or not our government or public security agencies, they actually understand the implications of their actions when it comes to security matters. Government, every government in the world has a responsibility. Number one, the safety and protection of their citizens. Number two, to create conditions for happiness. And number three, to secure the liberty or freedom of their citizens. Now, all of these cannot just be accomplished by security agencies alone. And therefore, in that inaugural lecture, I tried to point out that the whole idea of security sector reform in Nigeria and elsewhere in West Africa should involve judiciary, should involve the civil society, should involve the state. In other words, it should be institutional. Because today, I don't know, some time ago, a few days ago, you heard about a report where a father came on air to begin to plead that the daughter's life was at risk because the police, they came to the house to ask the little girl
to come identify
a criminal. Why should a police trained in security matters do such a thing? You have put the life of that little girl, the entire family, and those close to her at risk. So we are saying there's something fundamentally wrong with the way we are addressing issues of security in this country.
I want to ask you one more question, just as a follow-up before I come back to Chief Ebi Thomas. I mean, Chief had already alluded to the CNN interview that Richard Quest had with the governor of Katsina State, Masari. Masari told Richard Quest and CNN, look, we didn't pay any ransom to secure the release of these boys. That was on the one hand. On the other hand, people are now asking, hold on a second. I mean, if you could do this within a matter of a few days, why have we not been able to replicate same with the Chibok girls? I mean, this is almost 7 years down the line. What are the differences in dynamics?
Well, we have had 3 of such cases in the north.
Right.
The Chibok girls, the Dapchi
girls, yes.
and then the Kankara down.
Right.
Let me just say here clearly that what happened recently with the Kankara kidnapping is a big scam. You know what's a scam? A big scam. And God has exposed them. God has used this opportunity to expose them. For example, when it happened immediately, you heard that they said the police that were protecting those schoolboys in the dormitory, they tried to resist and protect the students.
That there was a gun duel for 4 hours thereabouts.
Exactly. Now, in that gun duel, where we call it operations in military system,
right.
What happened? Nothing happened. You couldn't seize one motorbike of one of the bandits or kidnappers. That's one. Number two, thereafter, the presidency got to know about it. And they said, well, they were trying to verify the number of students. And they came out and said, oh, we are sorry, it's only 10 students. Only 10 students. Then the state governor, Masari, came and said, well, there are about 300 students. The young boy that spoke from their hadat, where they were kept in Zamfara, he said there were about 520. You see, all of this is to create an impression to us and to Nigerians that this is a huge scam. Boko Haram, quite all right. They needed money for one or two things. Before I go there, when you carry out an operation to rescue people, of course, it's different from when you have a strategic plan to release people. So to release and to rescue, there are two different things. So government said, the governor himself, and I can quote him, that he had consulted with Mieti Allah. He was consulting with them to negotiate
and facilitate.
Listen, sir. He said to negotiate and then facilitate the release of those kidnapped boys. The governor said so. Now, how are you going to negotiate and facilitate the release without paying ransom? That's what. Two, the young boy that spoke, the little boy that spoke, go and watch the video. I still have it in my phone. The young boy that spoke said, please, government should listen to them and meet their demands immediately so they can release them. That boy was not speaking by himself. He was being prompted by the bandits or the insurgents or terrorists to make that particular statement so as to create the impression that yes, something wrong was going to happen to them if they didn't act quickly. In all of this, sir, I want to make it clear, and I'm very serious about it. The Kankara kidnapping is a huge scam, and Nigerians should see it that way. The apology that was rendered by Garba Shehu, that he's sorry he didn't get accurate figures. It's just making a jest of Nigerians, making a mockery of democracy in Nigeria. And he has failed to understand that security is basic to the survival of democracy in any nation. He has failed to understand that. Where there are security challenges and government is not able to address it, it becomes a serious problem. Years ago in this country, if you remember, when Goodluck Jonathan was in power, an attempt was made to declare a state of emergency in the Northeast. What was the response of the Northern leaders? That it was going to be a war against the North. And today, you are seeing all of this. Look, their concern is, how do we get our share of the national cake? This oil money. How do we get our share? The only way we can get it clearly is to pretend that these people have been kidnapped, we are going to kill them, and then we ask for some money. Boko Haram need money for feeding. They need money for weapons procurement. And so the only way they can get it is through the Nigerian government, apart from their sponsors abroad. Don't forget that Boko Haram is not acting in isolation. There is the link with the Islamic State of West Africa.
ISIS.
There is the link, Islamic State. There is the link with Aqim, that is Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb. And so definitely they get some kind of support. The third aspect of Boko Haram finances is also coming from within. And that is what they call protection fees. Remember what governors in the north, leaders in the north, they pay what is called protection fees. I have a video by a prominent northerner who says that the commander-in-chief of Boko Haram is a sitting governor in the north, as of today.
That's correct.
On account of the territories they've conquered?
No!
Okay, but then again, I think that should have become controversial because you understand that there have been several invitations to the person who made that assertion.
Yes.
While that is ongoing, I would just want to remind our viewers that we are also live on radio with this program, Independent Radio, 92.3 FM, the Heartbeat station. In a bit, we'll start taking calls, but that won't happen until I brought Chief Ebi Thomas back into the conversation. Chief, as of today, security has become many things in Nigeria, and it's nationwide overall, even though the searchlights would always be more on the northern parts of the country. We've seen Amotekun in the southwest, for example. Have you ever given it a thought for a second to say, look, if we can have the initiative, take the initiative to replicate this same kind of move in other parts of the country, we probably would be better positioned to deal with insecurity?
Thank you very much. I have been a great proponent of restructuring of Nigeria. You stay on your own, I stay on my own. I pay taxes to the federal government to be in charge of the armed forces and our foreign affairs. Allow me to have my local police. And the policeman that will be at upper mission must be somebody I know.
Okay.
We will have better security. But when you take somebody from Benin to go and be a commissioner in Umuahia, commissioner of police in Umuahia, in a decent society, that ordinarily should not create problem. But since everything we are doing in Nigeria, there is always the element of tribalism and religion. To the extent that issue of security in Nigeria has been so politicized that merit is no more the basis for being a GOC, a commissioner, or anything. Like my brother said earlier, the boy was speaking. But let me, before I forget, sorry for the diversion. The young man was speaking in Hausa, in Zafara Forest, said, oh, the people are complaining that Air Force planes were circulating in the sky, and that vigilante. Look, when we say this is a scam, we know what we are saying. If you negotiated with the supposed bandits, tell us how much you give out in the name of transparency. But for Masari to say, we use Miyeti Allah, we use the security agencies, is another way of telling you that the issue of security has been so bastardized, trivialized. It has become a matter of, look, whatever comes from oil that is already drying up, we must get. Has it not occurred to you that this issue of kidnapping in the north is always happening when there are going to be festive period?
You think that's more than a coincidence?
It's not a coincidence, my brother. Now, Masaris told CNN that he has told the security agencies not to fire a shot for the security of these children. Okay, no shot was fired. Miyati Allah and the security agencies negotiated. On what basis did those bandits waste their weapons, shooting, left the forest to come and kidnap students? On what basis? For money. Then if they are releasing the students unharmed, why are they releasing them unharmed? Something must have exchanged hands. Two, if it was not negotiation that the students were rescued, what happened to the bandits? Have you got any information on what happened to the bandits? We're not fools. It's either you organize these things to make money and cover it up as negotiation, or you are telling us, look, is it not surprising to you that while Idiloko in the Republic side, the land border was closed, the border in the north was never closed? And we are talking of security. You cannot be given a part of a country right from independence a preferential treatment, and you want to fight security. The people you are sending to go and fight Boko Haram with obsolete weapons, and Boko Haram is better equipped, what happens to the budget?
I want to take a mind back to something quickly from yesterday. I mean, following the release of these boys, 344 as we're now told, the U.S. mission in Nigeria is now demanding that those responsible for this kidnap be brought to book.
Exactly.
I mean,
I have just told you,
yes.
It was part of what I said just now. What happened to those people who adopted these children?
You think there's no chance something still could happen to them?
Never.
Okay, you see, let's put it this way.
This matter will just go with Christmas. It's as if Christmas is already postponed already, and New Year is already postponed. It will also be, the matter will be swept under the carpet, because nobody has told us what happened to those people who adopted these children. And is it not also funny? Each time we talk of kidnapping of students. These students don't speak English. When some guys were released in Chibok case, did they speak English?
The one spoke English yesterday. One of them who spoke during when they came to see the governor of the state. I mean, when the governor met with them, he spoke in English, and he talked about how that they were forced to defecate and eat at the same spot. Of course, he said they had to drink dirty water and so on and so forth. He said all of that in English. Maybe that doesn't apply to all of the kidnapped boys.
See, let's say something here.
Okay.
That kidnap was last week Friday. In any case, it would have been declared a national emergency, is it not?
Right.
The president, rather than respond immediately, like we already know, went to go and see his cattle.
His cattles.
But that was not annoying. The chief of army staff went to his snake farm. Snake farm. Snake. Was playing with snakes in his farm. First at kidnapping, what was happening? It doesn't matter. And then defense headquarters now issued a release, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, that particular troops from a particular area, they were the ones that secured it. With what? You know, they have messed up this country. And unfortunately for us Nigerians, I don't know how we got to this stage. Our memory has become very small. Our memory, very small. And our forgetfulness, very great. Why? Very soon, like Chief has said, after this festive period, everybody has forgotten about Kankara kidnapping. We have forgotten, mind your business. You say, we'll ask you, is that your business? Go and do other things. That is, I don't know how we got to this stage in Nigeria.
A former director of the DSS was speaking on Channels Television, and he talked about how that the governors of Zamfara and of course the one of Katsina now, with regards to this Kankara incident, knowingly or otherwise, had established a wrong precedent by quote-unquote negotiating with terrorists, because he said that has become a standard whether we like it or not today. What would be a reaction to that?
Well, for them in the north, they know that the only way they can remain in power is to seek the support of these terrorists and insurgents. That is the only way they can remain in power. Once they turn their back against them, definitely it will backfire. Take for example what Boko Haram said, what they claim to have said, that they kidnapped them because of the students are getting Western education. You know, they want to give them Islamic education. It doesn't make sense to anybody, but they are just who they are. But unfortunately, if the North wants to eradicate banditry, terrorism, and insurgency as a region or geopolitical zones, they can do it.
Okay, let's go ahead to take a few calls now before I bring my panelists back into the conversation. The number will be on your screen in a moment, but please let's quickly set the ground rules. Be sure you turn down the audio on your television sets before you make that call. Do the same thing if you're listening in on your radio set. However, this is not a platform to cast aspersions or sling mud, all right? Go straight to the issues and just air your views, all right? Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, welcome to the program. Your name and location quickly.
Yeah, my name is John.
All right, John, good to have you on the show.
First of all, it's a very wrong signal to negotiate with terrorists. Be it foreign policy or national policy. It's very, 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 very wrong. Hardly in the Western world you see a nation negotiating with terrorists. It means you are telling others you can do it again. So, to be frank, what played out in that kidnapping was just a drama, for me, orchestrated by political figures. It's just a drama that the Nollywood or the American movie industry should look into and make a thing of it, because it's a mockery of democracy. I mean, I'm just sad. We saw the chief of staff of the military going to a snake farm, and the president was not so, he was not bothered about it. He went to visit his cow ranch. It's a slap on our faces.
But the coordinator of military Defense Information, General John Ndeche said the Commander-in-Chief, that is the President as you put it, had already given a marching order to all the service chiefs to ensure the safe and unconditional release of these boys. What more was the President supposed to do? Fly there on a chopper?
For me, the President should have issued a statement to the terrorists in national or national TV, like a warning to them, like we see in America and the rest of the world. You do not go to a cow ranch when children are being kidnapped. It's wrong.
Okay.
And also, why is this kidnapping always taking place in that area? I mean, that zone in the north, and like your journalist said, during festive period, there is like it's like a dead game.
All right. Thank you so much. I had to end the call because you had already established a substantial point there. But let's take a few more before we're back to part of this. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, ITV. My name is St. Peter. I'm calling from Ubo here in Benin.
All right, go ahead and make a point.
If I can recall, I think the President instructed the Chief of Army Staff to relocate to the Northeast. I can't remember him telling him to come back. So it seems as if the security chiefs are playing with security of lives and property. And the issue of this kidnap is becoming too rampant. Nigeria seems to be having 1 week, one trouble. After this week, now next week we have another security challenge. This particular one will be forgotten. I just want to call on the government to rejig the security situation. I think security of life and property is very important. Thank you.
Thank you too for being a part of the program. Before we take a few more calls, I want to talk to Barrister Ibu Thomas. I mean, the first call I talked about the fact that it is an error for governments on any level to negotiate with terrorists or bandits. Some persons have said, look, let's face, call it what it is. It is hypocrisy when governments say that, because we still have, well, we cannot authoritatively confirm, reports of how that even under former President Barack Obama, the United States government had delivered in cash, $400 million to some terror cell somewhere in Iran. And then somebody is saying, well, if the US can do that, talk less of the so-called global south.
If the European countries do that, they have security votes for that.
Okay.
Our problem here is that we run our own government, we run our security on propaganda. How can somebody now tell you that these boys were all released on hunt without exchanging hands? Then how can they tell you that no shot was fired?
Some people say it may not be money, but it could be prisoner swap or something.
Whatever it is, are we not entitled to know?
Of course.
What is government there for? What is democracy? Okay, what is the difference between these civilians and the military? I did not elect the military people. They could rule me anyhow they liked. But when I elect you as a civilian president, you owe me a duty to tell me what is happening to my fellow Nigerians in Zamfara or Katsina. You owe me a duty. It's not for one Gabachew or one Femi or anything they call them to be telling us whatever Baghdad will tell us. No. Let me tell you one of the problems you are going to face very soon. These propaganda governors will either break or make Nigeria. If you don't begin to look at issue of security with all level of transparency and honesty, and you begin to tell us lies every day. You wanted Ruga, and you told some state governments that you better give them land than losing your lives. Is that how to rule? Is that how to secure such states? When you know that the governors of such states don't have powers over the security men in their territories. You say, Ruga. Then, when these herdsmen were creating security problems in the south, not a single one was taken before any court or arrested. Not one. So, Amoteku has come to the southwest. Good. But they didn't want Amoteku to to be established in Southwest. Till today, they are still saying in Abuja, they don't want Amotekun to carry guns. And we're talking of security. Now, if Zamfara State had their own policemen, if Katsina had their own policemen, in Kano they have Hisbah. What is legal in having Hisbah in Kano and making Amotekun illegal in Southwest? What is the difference? You can't continue to treat some people with kid gloves hands, and you treat the others as second-class citizens.
Chief, we're going to take a few more calls before I'm back to Professor Benson. Also, just keep those calls coming, please. Let's be sure that we turn down the audio on both our radio and television sets so we don't have a blowback with the audio. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, welcome to the program.
This is David. I'm calling from Benin.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Very well. Go ahead, David.
I think what the federal government, what they are doing, I don't think there is a solution there. Is a NCC registration of SIM card here and there. No. The only way to the security problem of this country, because this kidnapping issue is becoming too much. We have to go back to using landline. Let's put away this GSM as a thing. Because when you look at the pleasure that you derive from using this handset, and you look at human life, it's better we have to start all over again. Other countries, they use handsets, but there's no kidnap. You don't hear that kidnap is there. But here in this country, is a different thing entirely. We have to start all over again. Let's start the use of landline and dump the handset of a thing. Because if they kidnap you, they are going to use your handset to make the call. They are not going to use their own. So the issue of SSC bringing come and register yourself is uncalled for. You understand? Hello?
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. You're saying that the calls for subscribers of telecom services in Nigeria to authenticate their registration using the national identity number is a wrong move. We should instead abolish the use of GSM phones, or if you like, smartphones, and fall back to where we're coming from, which is the landline. Some persons will fight that with the last drop of their blood because life is progressive and this is the 21st century. However, let's also recall that the Minister of Digital Economy and Communication, Dr. Issa Patami, had been invited by Senate to say, look, explain to us the reason we still have kidnappers, bandits, and terrorists across this country, particularly in the northern part of Nigeria, still using phone lines, and they are not caught. I mean, they use phone lines undetected. So by way of addressing that issue, they're now saying that without the NIN, which is the national identity number, you won't have a line. In fact, we're now told that not less than 164 million lines are potentially going to be disconnected, unless, of course, they quickly take out time to go authenticate their registration using the NIN. Of course, incidentally, the ministry had proposed till the end of December, which is 31st of December, just a 2-week period. The Senate is now saying that is grossly inadequate, so they are proposing an extension till end of February, which is a 10-week period. But be that as it may, Prof. Obasanjo was...
Sorry. This issue of GSM, kidnappers no longer use their own phones. That's
Okay.
what
That they use the phones of the victims.
Yes, of the victims.
For security reasons.
For security reasons. So you cannot trace it. So even if you use your national identity card to register or authenticate your GSM line, it is the victims, not the phone, they will use. So we have to face the issue of security frontally and not creating more hardship for Nigerians. You can imagine those who will be affected. 164 million Nigerians. While those who are dealing with recharge cards are already going to be out of business. How many Nigerians will have enough time to go and be doing this re-authentication with their
NIN?
We will have that time.
I want to talk to Prof quickly, but let's take this call before I fall back to Professor Osadolo. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everybody in the studio.
Good morning.
My name is Daniel, and I'm from Benin. I just want to appreciate the contributions of everybody in the studio, and it has been really informative. But when it comes to these security challenges, we know all the answers, but it just seems as if the government don't know what they are doing. I don't know why till now they've not created a security architecture enough to battle the Boko Haram and the insurgency. I don't know why they've not decided to put this thing in check sincerely. It's lack of sincerity, because if you look at it very well, this ransom that is being paid, like Barrister Thomas said, it's a scam. It's a scam. The whole thing is a scam, because how can you say that you are paying ransom to people that you can see when you are meant to even apprehend them? You are negotiating with them. So it's a lack of sincerity from the government, and I feel that we are going to continue like this until we tell ourselves the truth. We tell ourselves the truth and say this thing must stop, because I don't know why we should be in this type of situation where our lives are in the hands of other people and we cannot do anything about it. We are just looking helplessly.
Okay.
Please.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the contribution. But let's begin to wrap it up now. Just two more questions for my panelists here. But let me begin with Professor Benson Osadolo. On Thursday, former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo was visiting Governor Makinde in Oyo State. And one of the issues he raised was about security again. He talked about how that these issues are not new. The only difference is they have evolved over time. And then you're asking yourself, at what point are we going to disrupt that evolution?
Well, I think what is needed in the country now is a security governance mechanism that will address all the problems. And then Nigerians and their leaders must be sincere in understanding security governance and tackling the problems. Number two, intelligence is also very important, particularly intelligence gathering. One of the simplest instruments in a defense system is early warning system mechanism. Yet, Nigeria is not able to maximize the use of that small benefit of a defense system. So there's a problem. In other words, let's take the issue of Kankara again. Does it mean that DSS did not get a whiff of information, or the police? Nigeria has Defense Intelligence Agency. It means none of them had a whiff of it. There is
That's why it's a scam.
Yes, you see, so that is what the passenger has said is quite interesting. But it cannot be in isolation. There must be a security governance architecture that will address all of these issues. We need to have security summits. It could start from the village to the local level to national. Let us address our security. So
you're proposing a holistic approach to these
exactly.
issues. So I want to wrap it up. I mean, you are going to put the icing on the cake for us, Chief. I want to again go back to the issue of the boys that were kidnapped as we wrap up now. Schools are being shut across the states in that region, I mean the northern part of the country, especially in the northwest and the south northeast now. Some persons are saying, look, this is another curve altogether to the insecurity we're dealing with, particularly in that part of the country. Are we going to have governors ordering schools to be shut, not just because of Christmas, not just because of the second wave that we have been told is imminent as far as COVID-19 is concerned, but because they have palpable fears that this may happen across other schools within that same region? So how do we run circles around that?
It's a shame. It's a shame that schools will be closed. All along, we have been having Almajiris disturbing the northerners. Now, Almajiris are being exported to the south, and these people create security problems themselves. So when you now close down the schools, these children who would have been in schools to learn will now become themselves security problems and fertile ground for recruitment into Boko Haram. So what I suggest is simple. Let's go back to the 1963 Constitution, which was the which is going to be restructuring of the entire country, so that we can have our own local police. If we have our local police, we will be sure that we will be.
Chief, Okay, we're sure we'll be better. I guess that will be better for security issues in this country. I mean, this is a long, drawn-out conversation, if you ask me, because it will appear we've not seen. I mean, obviously, we've not seen the end of this fight against insecurity in Nigeria. A lot of analysts are now saying that these children, 344 of them, kidnapped in Kankara, will have to get as much social support as possible. And the president has told them not to compromise on their education. But again, the government must take full responsibility for ensuring that not only are these children protected, but the education too is not compromised in any way. Special thanks to my panelists for coming on the program this morning.
With pleasure.
Do really appreciate it. Thank you, Chief Baby Thomas, for coming, and Professor Benson Osadolo. We appreciate it. Remember, the views of our guests are their opinions. Thank you for watching Politics Today. I am Uyag Mofwegbe in for Sonny Duke Okozun. Our coverage on independent television continues. Have a great weekend ahead of you.